Okay.
Okay. A person may not stand in a private domain and drink in a public domain, or in a public domain and drink in a private domain, unless he brings his head and most of his body into the domain in which he drinks. Similarly, regarding a wine pit. A person may catch water from a gutter lower than 10 fists, 10 tefachim, but a pipe he may drink in any manner. If a cistern is in a public domain and its embankment is 10 tefachim high, the window above it may be used to draw from it on Shabbos. Um, and if a rubbish heap is in a public domain and is 10 tefachim high, the window above it may be used to pour water into it on the Sabbath. A tree which droops over the ground, if its branches are not 3 tefachim higher than the ground, we may carry beneath it. If its roots are higher than the 3 tefachim above the ground, one may not sit on them. The door of a backyard thorns, which are in a breach, and mats, we may not close with them unless they are above the ground.
Okay. So let me just move my bookmark. Test Yud. Okay. Boom. Lo yamod adam birshos hayachid v'yiftach birshos harabim. Okay. So a person standing inside the house and wants to reach outside to unlock the door.
Right.
Okay, not allowed. Same thing goes for birshos harabim v'yiftach birshos hayachid. Why? Because the key is something that he might accidentally pull out and change domains with it. Okay. Ela im kain asa mechitza gavoa asra tfachim. But what can he do if he wants to do this on a regular basis, be able to reach in and to his hiding place and pull it out? Okay. What he can do is make a little mechitza in front of his door or in front, like the door by the window or whatever, have a little mechitza over there that's 10 tfachim high that makes this area into a Rosh Hashanah, and now you don't have such an issue. Okay.
There was a man in Far Rockaway. I used to see. He used to he when Sukkot came, his wife would be sitting in the house by the window. He was sitting outside the window on like a little small sukkah they had, and that was it. She couldn't come out. There was no room for her, so that's how they every year. That's what they did. They, passed things back and forth. But there was an Eruvin in Far Rockaway, but still
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Amrulo, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Meir, that's not so. I mean, remember we had those other cases where a person was allowed to move things inside the Rosh Hashanah if he could drink, remember, by leaning his whole body in, and other things he can do as long as he makes sure not to bring them across. So why would keys be different? And now say the Chachamim to Rabbi Meir. The market of people who would fatten what would they fattened animals, just in general, animals and birds for sale. They would lock the door and put the key on the lintel on top of the door. And that was perfectly okay, right? Even though the top of the lintel was a Rosh Hashanah, it was inside. Basically, it was inside the space of the Rosh Hashanah. They would take it out and move it and put it into the door, and nobody ever complained about that. Rabbi Yossi comes with a completely non-halachic observation and just says it was a shuk shel tzamarim. It was the wool dealers shuk, not
Didn't make
the.
any difference. So there's an
That doesn't
interesting
doesn't make any practical difference. He was just correcting the
right.
facts.
There's an interesting comment from the Gemara. It says that on a biblical level, Yerushalayim was a private domain because it was surrounded by walls. The only barrier to carrying on Shabbos was the fact that no Erev Chatzeres was made, so it had to be treated as a carmelis.
That's
If it was this,
that's
therefore, that
interesting.
is carrying was only rabbinically prohibited.
Huh. That changes a lot of the perspective over here because now we're not talking about Rosh Hashanah anymore. We're talking about caramelis,
Mhm.
and whether that's permitted or not. And it makes Rabbi Meir's position much stronger that even in a caramelis he doesn't permit this.
Yeah.
Oh no, 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 no. He was talking in general. The Chachamim brought the example of Yerushalayim, which then is a weak counterexample
Uh-huh.
because it's only in the caramelis
Right.
that they permitted. So Rabbi Meir could have said back to them, that it was hmm.
It
Okay.
says it also, since it's not really analogous to Rabbi Meir's case, where carrying is biblically prohibited, the Gemara reconstructs the argument that the comment of a chachamim that Rabbi Meir had prohibited even to stand in a carmelist and unlock in a private domain, or vice versa, and that is to contradict the fact that Rabbi Meir's view that the sages do the custom of Yerushalayim. I don't
Right.
know. It goes on a little bit more, but okay. All right. A door bolt.
Okay, doorbell. Nagash yesh berosha glustra. So it's got a knob on the top of the doorbell. Now, what's the question over here is this door bolt a door bolt is just like a deadbolt, there's a like you've got these brackets on the door and on the door frame,
Right.
and you put any you could take any plank you wanted and stick it inside there. It's not like there's a specific one. And now, the situation is that the householder is looking for something to lock his door with, and he sees there's a there's a stick over here, and it's got a knob on the end. Now, what's the significance of the knob on the end is that it's a kli. It's used for crushing things. Okay, so it's not like just a stum, a piece of wood, which would be muktzah. Um, but Rabbi Elazar says this is also to use. Why? He says Rabbi Elazar says that this is it looks like it's bone unless unless it's already been tied to the door, or hanging from a strong rope that that shows you that it's part of
Sure.
that is part of the door locking mechanism, and was designated as such before Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi is matir. He says you can lock with it even though there's no string on it, because um, right, because according to Rabbi Yossi, the fact that it's got this knob on the end means that it's a kli. And it doesn't look like he's Mosif Labinian. It's not a permanent thing that you're adding onto the building. So this is not considered a bone. Amar
Mhm.
Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Elazar comes to demonstrate his point. He says, "Maaseh b'knesses shebetveria." There was a thing that happened in Tveria. Shayu nogim bo heter. They used to permit taking the stick and putting it into the as a lock. Achi bar Rabban Gamliel v'Hazkenim v'asru lahen, until all these people came and they saw what they were doing and said, "No, no, 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 you can't do this." And Rabbi Yossi comes and says, "Nah, you've got it's punkt verkehrt. Isur naguba." They used to say you can't do it until Rabban Gamliel and the Zakanim came and said it was mutar for them. Okay, I don't know how you decide between two people who just argue that the facts are exactly the opposite of what they said. But anyway, that was the argument.
Yeah.
Yod Aleph, Neger Hanigrar. Now, if you have a doorbell that is dragged, um, right, which means that it is tied to the door, but it's not suspended in the air, right? Um, so it looks as if because it's partially on because it's dragged on the ground, and it's attached by a rope to the door, but it looks like it's on the ground. Okay. And this is obviously one that doesn't have a knob on it. It's just a piece of wood. Okay. So noalim bo b'mikdash aval lo b'medina. Now, when you see that something is allowed in the mikdash, something that's allowed in the mikdash, but not anywhere else, means that it's because it's durabanan, and we don't make durabanans in the mikdash because the mikdash doesn't need protection. Everyone who's in the mikdash is automatically careful about mitzvahs deraisa. So they say, okay, this is fine to use in the mikdash, but in outside in the rest of the world, you cannot do this because because it's near a kabone. Looks like
Right.
a building.
Right. Right.
Hamunach, but if it's resting on the ground without any rope at all, is that right? Hamunach. Let me just check the commentary again about hamunach. Um, yeah, it's not right. So it's not tied at all. It's just a stammer piece of wood. Aser kan v'kan. it's usher in both places because now this is it looks like you're Mosif Labinian. You've taken this piece of wood and made it part of the general locking structure of your doors, and that would be usher even in the Mikdash because derisas are derisas. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Hamunach mutar b'mikdash v'anigra b'medida. Rabbi Yehuda says no, even this would be a derabanan, just because it looks like building. It's not, but it's not a permanent addition, and therefore it would be mutar in the Beis Hamikdash, uh, and it's one that is dragged that's attached to the door with a rope would even be permitted outside of the Mikdash because why are we forbidding it? It was already attached to the door, and I see no reason to make a gezerah on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Chazara.
All right. Zion Yud.
Yud Aleph.
I put it in the wrong place. Yud Aleph. Okay, sorry. It's the wrong page. Sorry. Okay.
Go.
Oh, I go. I'm sorry. I was waiting for you to go. Sorry. Uh, a person may give a mot to a grocer or to a baker in order that he give him possession in an error. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer, but the comments say his money does not affect possession, but they concur in regard to other people. His money gives him possession, and we cannot make an error for a person except with his consent. Rabbi Yehuda said, to what do these rules apply? To Erev Techumen, but in regard to Erev Hazeras, we may make an error with his consent or without his consent, when we may benefit a person in his absence. But we may not disadvantage a person except in his presence. How do we make a communal Erev Techumen? One places a barrel and declares, let this be for all the people of my town, for whoever will go to a house of mourning or a house of rejoicing. Whoever accepted this while it was day, but yet day is permitted after dark. If the dark, he is prohibited because we cannot make an Erev after dark. What is quantity? Food for 2 meals for each person, or if it's food for a weekday, but not for the Sabbath. These are the words of Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says for the Sabbath, but not for the weekday, and both intend to rule leniently. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says a loaf worth a pinion, and when 4 saws cost a selah. Rabbi Shimon says 2/3 of a loaf, of which there are 3 to a kav. Half of it for a house affected with taras, and 1/4 of it to render one's body puzzle. Okay. All right. And Shabbos. Okay, Yud Tes Vav. These are the shreds that invalidate circumcision. Flesh that covers the larger part of the corona, and he may not eat of truma. If it was fleshy, he must rectify it for appearance sake. And when he circumcised but did not expose the circumcision, if it is, it's as if he did not circumcise. Come on. Rav Eliezer says we may suspend a strainer on Yom Tov, but we may pour into a suspended one on the Sabbath. Rabbi Elchanan said we may not suspend the strainer on Yom Tov. Normally we pour on a suspended one on the Sabbath, but we may pour into a suspended one on Yom Tov. We may pour water over wine dregs so that they become clear, and we may filter wine through cloths or through a basket made of palm twigs, and we may put an egg into a mustard strainer. We may make a honeyed wine on the Sabbath, and Rabbi Yehuda says on Shabbos it may be made in the cup on Yom Tov. It may be made in a bottle, and I call it moed in a cask. The Rev Tzaddik says everything depends on the number of guests.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Asa Shady. Okay. Beis Zion. Beis Shammai says one may not convert his sellers into gold dinners, but Beis Hillel permits it. Rabbi Akiva said, I converted Rabbi Gamliel's and Rabbi Shua's money into gold dinner. If one changes my Sheni coins for a seller, but if one changes my Sheni coins for a seller, Beis Shammai says coins for a wholesaler. But Beis Hillel says 1 shekel silver and 1 shekel coins. But Meir says one may not redeem silver and produce with silver, but the Chachamim permitted it. If one changes the seller of Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim, Beit Shammai say coins for the whole seller, but Beit Hillel says 1 shekel silver and 1 shekel coins. The deliberators before they'll come and say for the dinner silver and for the 1 dinner copper coins. Akiva says for 3 dinner silver and for a quarter copper coins. Tarfon says 4 aspers in silver, and Shammai says let him leave it in a shop and eat it. It's equivalent. Okay. And Nida. you need a hay base. If a Kohen was eating truma and he felt that his limbs were trembling, he grasped the male organ and it swallows the truma. These charges contaminate in any amount, even an amount equal to a mustard seed, and even an amount less than that. An infant girl who is 1 day old can become tummy by discharging neither blood. A girl who is 10 days old can become tummy by discharging viva blood. An infant boy who is 1 day old can become tummy by emitting ziva fluid. Furthermore, he can become tummy by contracting saras afflictions. He may become tummy from a corpse. He may binds for yibum, and he releases from yibum. He causes others to eat truma, and he disqualifies others from eating truma. He inherits and bequeaths one who kills him is liable, and he is to his father, and he is to his father, his mother, and all relatives like a full-fledged bridegroom. A girl who is 3 years old and 1 day old can become a betrothed through cohabitation, and if a yibum cohabitates with her, he acquires her. Furthermore, one is liable on account of her for committing adultery with a married woman. She causes one who cohabitates with her to become tummy to the degree that he will render a bottom couch's tummy as to that which is on top. If she is fully married to a Kohen, she may eat truma, but if one of the disqualified men cohabitates with her, he disqualifies her from the kahuna. And if any of the aros, forbidden partners mentioned in Torah, cohabitates with her, he is put to death because of her, but she is not liable to punishment. Cohabitation with a girl younger in age than this is like poking a finger in the eye. Okay. And Bechoros. Okay. Gimel. Reb Yosef ben Meshulam says, if one slaughters a Bechor, he may make a space for a butcher's hatchet on either side and pluck the hair, provided he does not dislodge it from its place. The same is true for one who plucks the hair to observe the place of a blemish. If the hair of a blemished Bechor fell out and he placed it in a recess in the wall, and afterward he slaughtered it, Akiva ben Mahalel permits it, and the Chachamim prohibit it. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi, however, says, not in this case, did Akavia alone permit it. Rather, they argued about the hair of a blemished Bechor that fell out and was placed in a recess, and afterward the animal died. And in this case, Akiva ben Mahal permits it, and the sages prohibit it. If wool is hanging from a Bechor, that which appears to be from the sheathing is permissible, and that which does not appear to be from the shearing is prohibited. How long is a Yisrael required to care for a Bechor? With small livestock until 30 days, and with livestock 50 days. Rabbi Yoshi says with small livestock 3 months. If the Kohen said to him within this time, give it to me, he may not give it to him. If it was blemished and he said to him, give it to me so that I may eat it, it is permissible. However, during the era of the temple, if it was perfect and he said to him, give it to me that I may offer it, it is permissible. The Bechor must be eaten within a year, whether it is perfect or blemished. As it is said, before Hashem your God, you shall eat it year by year. Okay. And Sota. Okay. Test 5.
Your Dalid.
I'm sorry?
Starting with your Dalid.
They went too far. Okay. During the age of Vespasian, they decreed a ban on bridegrooms' crowns and out unto the city under a canopy, but our rabbis forbid the bride to go out into the city under a canopy. When Meir died, the composers of parables disappeared from the world.
Oh, you skipped. You've skipped.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I didn't turn the page. Okay. During the siege of Vespasian, they descend the ban on bridegroom crowns and on the tambourine. During the siege of Titus, they decreed a ban on bride's crowns and that a man not teach his son Greek. During the final stage, they decreed that a bride not go out into the city under a canopy, but the rabbis permitted the bride to go out into the city under a canopy. When Reb Meir died, the composers of parables disappeared from the world. When Ben Asa died, the diligent ones disappeared. When Mensoma died, the exegetes disappeared. When Reshua died, the goodness ceased from the world. When Shimon ben Gamel died, the locusts came and increased, and troubles increased. When Elazar ben Azariah died, with wealth increased among the sages. When Akiva died, the glory of the Torah disappeared. When Kanana ben Dosa died, men of great deeds disappeared. When Yossi the lesser died, pious ones ceased. But why was he called the lesser? Because he was the least of the pious ones. When Rabbanan Yochanan Zakkai died, the splendor of wisdom disappeared. When Rabbi Gamil, the elder, died, the glory of the Torah disappeared, and purity and abstention died. When Yishmael ben Pavi died, the splendor of the Kahuna disappeared. When Rabbi Yehuda Anasi died, humility and fear of sin disappeared. When Pinchas Bayad says, with the destruction of the temple, scholars and high-born men became ashamed, and their faces have been hidden, and men of merit have been impoverished, strong-armed men and slanderers have become powerful, and there was no one to investigate, seek, or inquire. On whom can we rely? Only on our Father in heaven. Eliezer the Great says, from the day the temple was destroyed, scholars became like school teachers, and school teachers like synagogue attendants like the common people, and the common people get to degenerate, and no one seeks to halt this. On whom can we rely? Only our Father in heaven. With the footsteps of the Messiah, insolence will increase and inflation will soar. The vine will give its fruit, but wine will be dear. And the government will turn to heresy, and there will be no rebuke. The meeting place of the common will be used for immorality. And the Galil will be destroyed, and the Goblin, this this load this desolated, and the border dwellers will wander about from city to city, but will not be pitied. Knowledge of scholars have been lost. Those who fear sin will be despised, and the truth will be hidden. Youth will shame old men, and old men will stand up for youngsters. It will be a time when a son shames his father, a daughter rebels against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a father's and a man's enemies are the members of his household. The face of the generation will be like the face of the dogs, and the son is not ashamed before his father. On whom can we rely? Only on our Father in heaven. Biggest Ben Yair says, alacrity brings to cleanliness, cleanliness brings to purity, purity brings to abstention, abstention brings to holiness, holiness brings to humility, humility brings to fear of sin, and fear of sin brings saintliness, and saintliness belongs to the divine inspiration. Divine inspiration belongs to the restoration of the dead, and the restoration of the dead will be brought about by Eliyahu, who remembers for good. Amen.
Amen. Hadran alach Maseches Sota. And one Mishnah from in
Okay. One who brings a get from overseas must state, it was written in my presence and signed in my presence. From Gamil says, also one who brings it from Rekim or from Kega. Reb Eliezer says, even from Kafar Ludim to Lud. The sages, however, said one who was not required to state, it was written in my presence and signed in my presence, unless he bring it from overseas or taking it overseas. The one who brings a get from province to province overseas must say, it was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Gamil Gamil says, even from rulership to rulership.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Good day. Enjoy. I'll see you
Bye.
later tomorrow. Thank you.